Hey there, welcome to this short presentation around WCAG, how it's supported by and how to implement it within the Neptune DXP. Website accessibility means that everyone can comfortably navigate and use a website and its digital properties. Accessibility is the possibility for everyone, including and especially people with disabilities, to access and use information and computing technology. In a nutshell, WCAG, which stands for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, is a universally accepted set of technical guidelines that set out how you should go about ensuring that your digital content can be accessed by people with disabilities. Accessibility support is incorporated at two levels within UI5. The framework level, many fundamental accessibility features are built into the core design elements up front and are available to app teams out of the box. This ensures consistency across all products. And at the app level, some accessibility features need to be added or adapted to reflect app specific context. These need to be considered whenever you design an app. Here are some framework level examples. We'll start with visualizations, such as having a high contrast theme available, using consistent icons. We have the icon library used here, and different layouts for different devices. Everything is responsive by default, and more. For keyboard support, we have keyboard navigation and control interaction. All standard UI elements and controls are designed to be keyboard enabled. And we have tab of order controls. According to the placement of the controls on the screen, SAP UI5 supports keyboard navigation with a predefined tab order sequence. We also have the screen reader enablement, where screen readers can retrieve visible and invisible textual information. Many requirements are already covered by the technology framework, but the design aspects that are related to the individual purpose of the application still need to be implemented by the individual design teams. And here are some examples of those. First of all, understanding. You should ensure that the message content, information notes, error messages, and such are clear, easy to understand, and give action directions where necessary. Alternative texts, images need alternative text and descriptions, and text alternatives should be provided for visual labels. Also, for screen reader support, it's the developer's task to arrange the individual UI elements in a relationship that are needed for the screen reader. SAP delivers WCAG 2.1 support in the UI5 framework, and since the Neptune DXP utilizes the UI5 framework, the platform can support development of applications that meet this accessibility standard. UI5 version 1.75 Plus has WCAG support for 2.1a/AA. We recommend using UI5 version 1.108 or above for all the latest and greatest properties and features. Since we provide a development platform, there are shared responsibilities for ensuring the applications and services developed within the platform are WCAG compliant. You're responsible for implementing and testing WCAG support in your own developed applications, whilst we are responsible for implementing WCAG support in our Launchpad. The Launchpad is downloaded from the marketplace, so you can update with new logic and functionality separately from the platform version, and this ensures we keep it up to date with the standards without forcing a platform upgrade. However, we always recommend being on the latest version of the platform where possible. You are responsible for internal education on how to support UI5 WCAG support and how it's implemented in custom development. And we are responsible for all WCAG features in UI5 working as expected within the app designer. Version 22.10.5 brings some new properties to the app designer which enable WCAG compliance. We've built an example WCAG application within the application designer that highlights the best practice for utilizing a range of common components and their accessibility properties. This is designed to be a reference point that you can use for your own development. I'll hand over to Caesar, who can demo this application, highlight some of the key properties we have implemented, then he'll explain how to test the application to prove it is WCAG compliant.
Thank you, Lloyd. I will continue with presenting the software used in conducting the accessibility testing. The name of the software is DevTools, which is a browser extension that provides a set of accessibility testing tools to help web developers and designers identify and fix accessibility issues in their web applications. It works with commonly used browsers like Chrome, Firefox, and Edge, and is available for download from their corresponding web stores. With Axe DevTools, developers can perform accessibility audits on web pages, identify accessibility violations, and get guidance on how to fix them. The extension provides detailed reports that highlight accessibility issues and suggest solutions, making it easy for developers to understand the issues and conform to WCAG standards. As a screen reader, I have used VoiceOver, built in on iOS devices, but if you are running on a Windows-based machine, you can use the built-in screen reader called Narrator. Now I will open the demo app that I have built and walk you through the process of making your apps WCAG compliant. This is an app formed of 3 tabs: Table, List, and Form, and each tab contains various elements used in tables, lists, and forms. Let's take as an example the Form tab. We have a panel with the accessible role set to Form, because this panel contains a form. Moving down, we have the simple form with area labeled by set to the parent component, panel simple form. Inside the simple form, we have a toolbar, area labeled by the simple form, followed by multiple labels and different components. We have input fields, a switch, and 2 types of sliders. Let's take as an example the first label, an input field. The label has a text and is labeled for the input field. And the input field is area described by and labeled by the label. This input field also has a placeholder and a tooltip which are read by the screen reader, therefore improving the user experience. If these 2 properties were empty, the screen reader's output would be name, to enter text in this field, type. In our case, the screen reader's output will be name, first name, please insert your first name. The tooltip property is available in most components and can be used to offer additional information about the functionality of a component, or what is the user supposed to do. The same configuration has been done to all components in this app. If you find yourself in the situation where you need to add additional information about a component, and the tooltip has already been used, you can use an invisible text component. The text won't appear on the page, but it will be available to use as a target in the area described by and area labeled by fields. Let's take the Save button as an example. We have the text Save, the tooltip Press to Save, and an invisible text. This button saves the current progress on the page, which is associated with the button in the area described by and labeled by. The screen reader's output in this case will be: this button saves the current progress on the page. Press to save. With that being said, we can move on to perform the accessibility testing of the app. We open the console, select the Axe DevTools, and now we can either scan all the page or parts of it. Let's scan all the page, and as you can see, there are 0 issues. But let's say that we have a button without any text or description. We disable the invisible text, we take out the icon, text, and tooltip. Save, refresh the page, and now when we rerun the scan, we have one critical issue: buttons must have discernible text. The tool highlights the issue and also provides solutions on how to fix the issue. Let's go back, enable the invisible text, set an icon, a text, and a tooltip. Refresh the page, rerun the scan, and now we have 0 issues. Now let's recap. To make your app WCAG compliant, you must ensure that labels for controls are targeted correctly, use tooltips to provide description, and invisible text for any additional information about the functionality of a component. And of course, we recommend you to use DevTools to run your scans, and use the screen reader to test all the components by navigating the app using the keyboard only. With that being said, back to you, Lloyd.
Thanks, Caesar. Let's have another overview of the area properties that were featured there, with some examples and explanations as to why they're important to know about and utilize. Remember, a lot of these properties might not have a direct visual impact on the application, but will be utilized by a screen reader or in a variety of other ways, such as by hovering over components. So it's important to try and utilize as many of these as possible throughout our application development process. The label for properties go hand in hand with the described by and labeled by, but specifically point to the component that this label is referring to. Some elements get their accessible name from their inner content. Other elements, such as form text areas and tables, get their accessible name from the content of associated elements. So for these elements, the accessible name comes from a label with a for attribute. The area labeled by and described by attributes both reference other components to calculate text alternatives. You can also implement an invisible text component, which is used to bring hidden text to the UI for screen reader support. The hidden text can be referenced by the area labeled by or area described by associations of other controls. The placeholder properties is a visual one, so you can see it on the component, and you should use it to define a short hint to prompt the user when the input has no default value. The title is another visible property. It's quite self-explanatory, giving the component a key name. And the tooltip is an important one to utilize, showing additional text when hovering over the component. The region role is used to identify document areas the author deems significant. It's a generic landmark available to aid in navigation when none of the other landmark roles are appropriate. It's available for a couple of components, such as the panel, page, dynamic page, object page, and flexible column layout. Some other additional labeling and tooltip advice can be seen here. Some of these are quite straightforward, like ensuring all elements are labeled correctly and completely, but also consider naming the containers that surround these elements. Consider using described by where needed to provide even more detailed context for components, and also utilize the accessible role property to name containers. Finally, lots more information is available across this accessibility topic. Links to recommended reading sources will be provided alongside this video. Thanks for watching.